Hello everybody! Real quick, we're just going to do some quick introductions. You know me, I'm Jack Attack, and I do the video stuff, the community stuff, and I work on a lot of the user experience UI stuff for Immortal.
Yeah. I'm Coulter Hochsteller. I do tons of user experience stuff and try to, from top to bottom, make the... Am I scooting this way?
Yep, just a little bit.
Okay. To make the experience great from top to bottom of the skill set, and that is like what I do, and I live and breathe.
Yeah, the term for that is the design lead. Anyway, I am the, well, now I'm going to forget my title. I'm the creative lead, as I said earlier yesterday. I'm responsible for mirroring the mechanics to the lore, and I'm part of the design team. And you know, as anyone who's in the startup phase of a company, I wear many hats, just like these fine gentlemen here.
Okay, so questions are going to start rolling. Please ask your questions, but starting things off, how did you guys feel about the tournament? What did you like? What didn't you like? What were the cool moments for you?
That final game was amazing.
Oh man,
I was on the edge of my seat pretty much for 14 minutes straight, 15 minutes. Like I thought they were going to close it out several times, and then QXC. I don't know. I've never seen a guy make so much of a difference with so few units in Vanguard. He's so good at that.
Yeah, for me, I think my favorite part was just how the entire experience showcased the width and breadth and depth of so much of what we've been working on. We got to see a lot of the different variety of units early on when everyone was doing 4-base, and then we got to see how we had worked very hard to make sure that that kind of greed could be punished, and we can keep people on the edge of their seats from the time the game starts to see how things unwrap. And then we got to see a low econ game to that very extreme late game in the most perfect game to pick it for. So.
Oh man, the tenacious QXC was just hanging on his one base. He had it, he didn't have it, he had it, he didn't have it. He's got 100 minerals a minute, just like, I've got 4 ghosts, I'm gonna make them happen. He's like, oh man, all the stuff's coming together. It was an incredible game.
He was squeezing pennies out of a piggy bank.
Yeah.
That was nuts. Yeah, no, he was definitely my favorite to watch.
All right, well, we got a question from Hoplite1. He says, I'm totally new to Vanguard, and you guys say you're starting a new company. Does that mean you have plans to monetize it? Will it be a standalone RTS one day?
Who wants to handle this?
I got it.
All right, bud.
Yes, we're absolutely planning on doing our own thing, and we've tested a lot of design principles in the Vanguard you saw today, but we're not going to be doing one-to-one transfers of this at all. But a lot of the principles that are there are going to be in the standalone game, and we are monetizing it, and we intend it to be free to play.
Yeah, and one of the things that I mentioned a lot in the cast, it's so tricky to achieve these goals of like the idea that having a diverse unit composition is better than just massing one unit. It's really easy to say, yeah, we want our game to do that, but getting the game to actually do that, to perform that way when in the hands of really skilled players is incredibly difficult to do. So being able to test this, to take these lessons and then use them to apply to Immortal, we get to start out, way further along in the process.
Absolutely, actually, and this is something that I'm always blown away by Coulter, because he had the vision pretty much from day one of the project, establishing key unit combinations as the foundation for gameplay going into Immortal. And it's one of the things that really committed me to this project all those years ago.
Yeah, and Immortal is the name of the new product, of the one that we're developing. That's the concept art we've been playing during the breaks and things like that, so you can see the world slowly begin to take form and develop, and we're really excited to be doing that. But yeah, free-to-play monetization options, microtransaction type stuff. There's a lot of options, a lot of ways to go with that, and we're really open to different directions to take. So if you have feedback, if you have ideas of what you think is good, what you think is bad, best practices and things like that, share them with us. What you think. We're always wanting to be this sort of more interactive kind of a company where we can just be us, just sit here in front of the camera and not be too worried about, saying the perfectly right PR answer to every single question. It's just
we didn't run the perfect tournament.
we certainly did it. Yeah,
we did it because we cared, and we did it because we were confident that the gameplay would resonate with you folks. We wanted to share what we've been working on for the last 4 years, and we're so grateful that you guys are giving us your tough questions, your hard feedback, your encouragement, everything. We'll take it in stride.
Expanding on that, Ingve asks, how many factions are there going to be in Immortal, or is it too early to say?
So
1 million.
1 million.
Back.
Yeah, so we think it's been proven pretty clear that part of a vibrant esports scene is continuous content release. Keep refining the game, keep making it amazing, and add new things and strategies for the players to explore. So we're going to start with more factions than StarCraft. As you can see, we have 6 factions in this game, and each of those factions in Vanguard we have 6 factions. Each of those factions have 1 commander. We're going to be testing the commander system coming up. We're going to be adding more commanders to those factions. And commanders are a great way to add variety to a faction. You change a few of the units, you change the commander specific ability, and it can help sharpen the strategies in what way you want to go. And so we're going to be embracing a lot more commanders. I think Jeff mentioned at one point 21 commanders is an ideal release target for what we're going for, and we're going to start with at least 4 factions, and we're not going to start with more than 9. We're going to explore to see what we can support and what is going to be a balanceable state. And then we'll grow from there over the years as we add content and grow the experience.
I actually can follow up briefly on that. As a creative lead and as part of the design team, I'm personally really confident we can hit 15 factions with 3 commanders each.
Yes.
Within a few years of release, pretty confidently, and that's because of how we've designed these factions. As you can see, Nerazim and Kala, Overmind and Kerrigan, even though they're part of the same quote-unquote race, those factions share things like tech tree structure. Their units fill similar roles, even if they do so in different ways. And that lets us standardize enough design that we can actually produce an enormous amount of compelling content that enhances the game.
Yeah, they're faction families, which helps with it not being overwhelming to new players, just too much shit going on all the time. So yeah, it's definitely something that we're confident that we can execute on.
And a very quick follow-up with that. Hoplite1 asks if you've played Company of Heroes 2. They also embrace Commander system.
Oh, absolutely. Commander systems aren't new to RTS at all. It's a pretty well-proven concept. What matters is execution, and that's where a lot of playtest time on our end has come. We don't want abilities that completely break open the core game experience. We want them to add to it. So that's a difficult and intensive balance to strike.
Perfect. Moving on, Frost900 says, have you thought of a gameplay solution for a player that dies in the early game? Team games have respawns, but an RTS doesn't.
Yeah, so those games built for respawn, it's a really core part of the experience, but in strategy games, it's so much about holding and claiming. And when you take those risks early on that lead to that early death, that is an important part of the experience. That's what keeps you honest in the early game. And so ultimately, we think it's the right decision to let the game come to an end there. If that one player can't carry it all on his back, and it's going to be very rare that he does, they have taken risks, they haven't done the right thing, they have been outplayed, and it's time for the game to come to a close, even at that early stage.
And then the other thing too, I think that's interesting, at least for the Vanguard, the way it's set up is, you can still have some influence about what's going on.
Yeah.
One of the most difficult parts about Vanguard and probably Immortal is keeping track of everything. And just having a person that can tell you what's going on and spot call for you and all that kind of stuff is very powerful. And on top of that, in Vanguard at least, you still have your Xel'Naga energy that's accumulating. You can still contribute in that way. And in the last game, we had QXC, who was pretty much eliminated, but couple of units here and there could make a big difference. So I think that you really have to absolutely lose everything to be fully eliminated and have no chance to come back, and that's a pretty rare occurrence. And like you said, it needs to be there so that players are kept honest.
Curtis S. Wright asks, what is the hopeful time frame for the initial release of the game?
I can take that. So we can't commit to a hard timeline for obvious reasons. Game development has a lot of pitfalls and a lot of factors that can wildly change the end time of release. I can say we are hoping, best case scenario, to be releasing beta within 3 years. And I'm hopeful that we can release something that communicates our vision very clearly in an engine by the end of this year or early next year.
Granus asks, after watching the tournament, did the pros handle the game the way you expected them to?
Well, it depends on which invitational. There are 2 private invitationals before here, and the second one, we were really trying to find a good balanced fulcrum for strong, impactful air units, something that StarCraft 2 struggles with, but at the same time, there are a lot of iconic units like the Banshee that really sort of define interesting play, or you know, a lot of esports moments like the Oracle and whatnot. But balancing that with, say, the Brood War formula, which relies on very weak air units in terms of their efficiency versus ground, was a big struggle, and we did not hit that balance right at all. Tails and Billowy ran away with the tournament on the back of Corsairs that could take down Nexi in like
It was bad.
like
It
less
was
than
bad.
10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
We were so excited to see that this game did not boil down to such a single unit composition like
Yeah.
that. That was one of our biggest hopes and things we've been working on hardest going in, and that it didn't do that is really exciting. We got to see some really good Zerg play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am so happy about the unit diversity thing. That's probably my biggest takeaway as far as like, oh man, I don't know if it's gonna work. This is a really important thing to me. It really makes the game good, and it's like, oh, they massed one unit and lost. Yes. They had a complex unit composition with complements and they won. Yes. You know, it's just like it was all kind of
Checking
lining
those
up for
off
me.
the
It's
list.
like, yep, that's good and that's good. And I was really surprised to see the Xel'Naga energy use.
Yeah.
I think our playtesters have taken a little bit longer, but especially like Classic, he played like 2 games and he was like, already like, yep, you put fortifications here, I'm securing this area, and I put a healing thing over here, and I cast this spell. And it's like he was keeping his Xel'Naga energy really low, which is something that was really surprising to see, and you know, made me really happy.
I can manage that on a good day.
Grommet says, one other question. What do you like to watch more, casuals or pros play the game?
Pros, because
Pros.
it never stops. To those wondering, like, at my level of play, it's not that intense. But when they have all that free APM and they're used to doing so much stuff, they just make such an incredible fireworks display.
Yeah, like especially Classic Innovation, and
Oh.
it was too bad we couldn't see them in the finals. But if they had a little bit more preparation, I think they could have made it there. But just the sheer multitasking, so many things going on at the same time, I feel like we were almost not equipped enough to deal with it. Like we needed a technical director and like 3 different observers and picture and like all those kind of production things to like truly capture what was going on. But it was really cool to see.
I think for me it's both. I love the spectacle of pro play, but I love seeing new players discover the game for the first time. I love people digging into the theory of compositions or cool timings. One of my favorite parts of playtesting is hanging out with Jack and going into a match not knowing what we're going to do and figuring it out. That sort of, I guess it's feel good, it's chewy. It's hard to describe the experience exactly, but watching players discover the fact that they can make a big difference on their own and with their friend is nothing short of magic to me.
Torino asks, how did you find each other and decide to create a new RTS? Where did it start?
This guy. It started with this guy.
Yeah, so I was spending 11 hours a day watching StarCraft in 2011, and I was like, what does the ideal esport look like? What's the camera angle? And I just started tearing it apart and doing my best to craft it. And he did a post on how StarCraft 2 Protoss are like tricky elves compared to the honorable, powerful warriors of StarCraft 1, and how the thematic experience, especially like the we cannot hold at any little bit of an attack. And so I saw that post, I connected with it, and I reached out to him and said, dude, let's make something together. And it's just grown from there as we've added awesome people. I'd worked with Jack on the core before the keyboard layout, and then we just kept bringing excellent folks together to make what we're doing here.
Some of the mechanical magic really started taking off when the Starbow team started falling in rank with this vision. And you know, Travis's work, December Calm's work on unit pathing and
He's so good.
Carrier micro, resurrecting Vulture micro, and mind SC2, Brood War mind dynamics. All that stuff made it into this prototype, and we're carrying these lessons with us into Immortal.
Cobra Venom asks, do you hope to be acquired by Blizzard, or how do you plan to finance the projects long term?
I can take this too. We cannot actually say who we're talking to, but we're talking to a lot of people, and there's a lot of interest in seeing a competitive RTS flourish. Simply because there's not too many games in town, and designing an RTS is incredibly hard. So we're not worried about our future, but we can't say.
Yeah.
Cantuva asks, what plans do you have for the Immortal campaign? I have heard that you guys have some cool things cooking up on the Immortal universe.
Uh-oh, somebody's been talking. That's almost certainly me.
Go for it, man.
So this is definitely a bit more my wheelhouse. Functionally, we want the early campaign elements to be facets sort of UI and certainly user experience. One thing that Brood War and StarCraft 1 did very well, and Warcraft 3 for that matter, is using campaign as an intuitive and immersive tutorial for each faction.
Yeah.
And we're definitely doing micro campaigns for each faction with specific scenarios that highlight the strengths of whatever commander you happen to be playing.
And dramatic points in the faction's history to tell the powerful moments of their story.
Absolutely. So what we'd like to do, if we have a lot of extra money going into a post-release scenario, is we'd like to build a powerful, immersive sort of overworld where you can pick your faction, pick your starting point, and ride it to victory. And that the key thing here that I'm trying to address as creative lead is to not pick favorites, which is a problem that every developer in these sort of multi-factional IPs struggle to do. It's a huge problem to solve. Every dog has to have its day if you have one continuity.
And Grommet asks you to expand on that, saying campaigns for 15 factions?
Yeah, so when we say a tutorial campaign, we mean about 3 missions. So that's pretty small potatoes. It's when you get into, and this is sort of why we want a modular sort of overworld style mega campaign, where you do all the hard work once, and you give specific advantages and specific incentives and agendas to each faction, or maybe even each commander. That way, if you want to be this omnicidal, Zerg-like faction and consume the world, you can. And it's no ruffled feathers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hoplay1 asks, will the core be a default hotkey setup on your game?
I think that's for you, Jack.
Yeah. So if you don't know this already, Coulter and I spent a month, 11 hours a day, building the first version of the core. That's how I met Coulter.
Yeah.
That's how this started. And that's how I got sucked
went crazy
into this thing. So we so much are focused on making this game really efficient and really easy to pick up.
Yes.
You're gonna have different options for maybe some easier to learn hotkey type setups and some more efficient hotkey setups. Something like that will come by default. I don't think it will be the core exactly.
I think
it
we'll
might
have
similar shapes. We've learned a lot.
Yeah.
From developing the core, researching into ergonomics and how the hand works and things like that. And so we're gonna take a lot of those lessons and apply them to just a control scheme that's simple and intuitive and easy to use.
Yeah, because that's not the core. So we'll have an intuitive one, and then we'll have one that we've worked hard to optimize that maybe pro players want to learn if they want to take it up a notch.
Expanding on that, do you want to talk a little bit more about the UI for the game and how it will integrate these features and social features?
Can we talk about?
Okay, I'll tell you a little bit. First of all, we think that when you log into our game, the opportunity to have social experiences, to have your clan chat automatically pop up and be in a permanent position where it's not something that you're incentivized to hide away or exit out of is very, very important. And we think that delivering theme even inside the menus is very important. We've got some really cool features to do on that. But most of all, the in-game UI, we are focusing so much on making it where when a new player sits down, he's not presented with an overwhelming amount of things. He sees exactly what he needs to start making good choices at the current amount of diversity that he can support. And as he adds text structures and things unlock, things become more apparent. So we walk them into the complexity of an RTS in a way that I don't think I've seen done before in a full-scale RTS. And that's something that we're excited to do. But there's also going to be a lot of optional changes to how you control. Pro players will still be able to handle it just like you've seen today, but there are going to be things that allow newer players to have an easier time but be a little less effective. It's a trade-off, a little less challenge and control, but basically we take the skill floor and we lower it and make the depth and challenge that you can get in an RTS an optional part of the experience to some extent.
Yeah, easy to learn, hard to master.
Yes.
is the mantra. It's the core. It's really important to us, and I can't tell you all the cool things that we're working on, but it just gets me super excited.
We can talk about the unified command card. That might be in a future build of Vanguard coming up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when you're playing a MOBA, you don't have to select between all of your different units. Typically, all of the spells are immediately displayed and immediately available. And that can be done in RTS if you design your factions intentionally so that you don't have a million spells on a particular faction. So the unified command card is something that we almost have running in the StarCraft engine, and it will be so that you will not have to tab through sub-selections hardly at all. All of your combat spells will be available no matter what amount of units you have selected, and that means it's one button to one spell. It's just gonna happen. So like even in StarCraft, it can be a challenge to use both High Templar and Sentries and command both of their spells effectively and efficiently. That is going to be so much easier with a unified command card. No selection management in that regard.
Granis asks, what is your dream for Immortal in 5 to 10 years?
Oh, we want to go big.
Yeah, we want to go big.
Yeah.
The dream for Immortal is that we're having several worldwide leagues, and that we are releasing content that people are very excited about and characters that resonate with people, and that we are being effective communicators with the community and really engaged.
I think one of the big things for me that I'm looking out for all the time is I want to avoid this idea that RTS is just hard.
Yes.
RTS is just for some people who are really into it, and that's it. It's only for like the elite. Or if you want to play an RTS, yeah, okay, sit down, hang out in the unit editor, do these drills for like 5 hours, and then you can maybe win one game on ladder out of 20 or something like that. I want it to be a game where you can jump in, it's really intuitive, and you can have a good time with your friends. You can, like, one of the things that frustrates me a lot of the times is I want to play RTS with my friends, but they're all just like, I'm so much better than they are. Not that I'm good, but just the skill floor is so high, and just the fact that I've reached the skill floor, it creates this giant chasm of just sort of like, it's not fun to even play with you, even if we're playing team games, because you're so much better at having invested the time.
And we won't go into the details now. You can experience it yourself by playing the Vanguard mod, but we have had allies who are very different in skill play together versus a similarly skilled enemy team, and both players, both the person who is terrible and the person who is great, have a really good time. They get to engage in the core experience partly because of how we've changed macro, and partly because of how we're simplifying some of the control. But we've made it so that your friend doesn't have to be super close to you in skill to have a good time and feel like he's playing a role in the victory and what's going on.
Actually, I have a great example for that. Months ago, about 6 months ago, with Theo, our GM level balance lead, took a game off of our champions today because I was allowed to participate in the core experience, and we came up with a really cool plan, and it was designed to take advantage of a certain play pattern they're using at the time, and I was able to actually make a difference. I helped in several key engagements that secured us a win. Now, we got flattened, in the overall series, but that ability to participate in the core experience is something new for competitive RTS.
You can make dudes and shoot stuff without having to be really good. You don't just show up with so much less stuff, you get wrecked.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Where can they learn more information if they want to?
SunSpearGames.com is going to give you information on the company. We've got a blog, we've got a pretty cool entry right there, and we're going to be adding another one soon. And then if you want to know a little more about Vanguard specifically, there's a link there, or you can go to vanguardprototype.com, and the community is in the Discord.
And make sure you go ahead and follow us on Twitter, and talk to us on Twitter,
Yes.
and on Facebook. Hang out with us. Tell us what you think. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with us. This has been such an amazing experience for us, and we're humbled and so happy that you've joined us in this journey. We hope that you come in onto the Discord and play some games and tell us what you think.